Thanks to people joining me live. Thanks to everybody who's going to be tuning in to the archives. Archive views have been great. Let me check my mic real quick, make sure. Testing. Looks like the mic is good. Alexa, be quiet. All right, we are live. Make sure if you're live, hit that like button first and foremost, and then let us know who you are in the chat and make sure to vote in that poll. Who will be the first fighter to become undisputed in the four-belt era in two different weight classes? Will it be Inoue? Will it be Bud, the Boogeyman Crawford? Will it be Dimitri Bivol? Who is it going to be? So let me know, but make sure to tap in and hit that like button. And thanks to everybody joining me live. And it's been great. And make sure to keep leaving those comments below, especially on the short form content videos as well. We are Chairman John. Appreciate you coming through, my brother, and appreciate all the comments you've been leaving underneath the short form videos and underneath the archives. You usually catch it in the archives, so I appreciate you tuning in and playing back and all that good stuff. Eubank Jr., Liam Smith. I'm going to give my quick thoughts on that, not on the fight, because I want to me, the bigger story from Eubank Jr. losing is that he lost to a junior middleweight and he was a top 5 middleweight. And it highlights the dumpster juice division that is the middleweight division. So I will be bringing up graphic. I saw it, so I'm forcing you to see it. You have to see it too. This graphic, this dumpster juice division, the rankings that is the middleweight division, as long as the welterweight division, because we will be highlighting that as well. And comparing and contrasting to these guys. There's a reason that I have this poster up behind me for the podcast. There's a reason that this is up. These are fighters behaving like fighters. This is what carried the sport, guys like this. And I'm not saying all of them were perfect. That's not what I'm saying, but they behaved like fighters. They carried the sport on their back. They were stars. These are true American stars, 3 of them right here. And there's no reason we can't continue to have that. I don't want to hear that. Oh, it's boxing. I don't want to see a dangerous sport. All it's good. It's not that. Still to this day, if you have a fight on one block, a basketball game on one block, a baseball game on one block, a football game on one block, everybody's going to be gravitating towards the fight. It's in our DNA. It's in our blood. We want to see dudes fight. We want to see dudes fight at the highest level. Boxing, mixed martial arts, doesn't matter. If we have dudes at the top behaving like fighters, fighting consistently, this sport would still be great. We'd still have Americans like this. Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, commercials, late night shows. I posted a video on Twitter earlier today. Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton, doing their weigh-in the day before the fight at the Forum, doing their weigh-in on the Johnny Carson show, the biggest show in America, doing their weigh-in there. Personalities, fight buildups, promoters knowing that you have to promote the fights. You promote fighters, but you promote fights. And if you give us the fights, you can properly promote the fighter and put them in front of people and organically build them to where people are invested emotionally in these fighters. So when you see Muhammad Ali go on the Johnny Carson show and do the weigh-in and have not only the live audience, but America in the palm of his hand with his personality, that was a true star. It was a true star. And there is no show that resembles Johnny Carson's show today, but there are shows you can go on and do something similar. Boxing doesn't do it. And I highlighted that in December. You have the big promotional or big boxing outfit, Premier Boxing Champions, and you have to go. They didn't post the Morrell Jr. fight until 4 days before the fight on their fight schedule. They're not even properly promoting their fighters on their website. That's their own website, their own schedule. And I got to go to badlefthook.com or Dan Raphael's Substack to see when Morrell Jr. is fighting, because Boxing Champions doesn't even tell me that their fighter is fighting on Saturday and it's Tuesday. Here goes Calix again. Getting wound up. Here goes Calix again on his front porch, telling the kids to stop riding their skateboards on the sidewalk. That's not what this is. I guarantee you. I want the kids to have fun. I want this generation to have fun. All I'm telling you is we need to properly build stars. There are things that we got away from that we need to go back to. Sometimes you listen to your elders who have been here long enough to know when no, things have gone left. Things have gone sideways here. We need to get back to the basics. Shout out my guy, Bruce Gass. And Bruce Gass, he'll know what I'm talking about here. Old school. The 80s were the glory days of boxing. Boxing needs tournaments. If it was more organized, no doubt boxing would be more popular than it is. If the powers that be gave the customer a consistent product, it would be great. Good afternoon, Calix and Shaq. Good afternoon to you, Andre. I saw that one yesterday too. Ali and Norton on Johnny Carson. Great stuff. On Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson. People who are old enough don't know how big Johnny Carson was. So to do a weigh-in, not only is that creative, but nobody like Johnny Carson's level. Johnny Carson isn't going to lend his show to anybody. But he said, come on, Muhammad Ali. Come on, Ken Norton. Do your weigh-in here. Let's do it. Fights at the Forum. Let's build it. Everybody's going to be there. That's when stars were stars and promoters were interested in building stars instead of protecting their assets. And in protecting their assets have devalued. Equivalent to Carson would be Joe Rogan, something equivalent to that, yeah. But Johnny Carson was in households every night. Big deal. Big deal. So Eubank Jr. loses to Liam Smith. Why is this a big deal? Because Eubank Jr. is Eubank Jr. It is what it is. No big win on his resume per se. And nobody really thought that Eubank Jr. was out here killing it or a top level fighter, not a pound for pound guy. But why is it a big deal? It's a big deal because number 5 in the rankings by Ring Magazine. And he was top 5 in badlefthook.com ratings as well. So let me pull this graphic up real quick. Let me screen share. I saw it. You guys have to see it. You know, it makes me want to puke even looking at this, but I'm going to share a screen. Like I said, I saw it, so you have to see it. Look at these rankings right here. This is welterweight. Let me bring up middleweight. We're going to talk about welterweight in a minute because I'm going to compare and contrast those guys to these guys that are behind me on this board. Gennady Golovkin, number 1 at 41 years old. Jamal Charlo, number 2, has fought once in the past 850 days. Once. Yanibek, 13-0 at number 3. Yanibek, no great win, but everybody's scared to death of him for some reason. Jaime Munguia, number 4. What the hell is Jaime Munguia doing? Who's he fighting? We don't know. He's talking about fighting Shane Mosley Jr. next. Carlos Adames, good fighter. Don't mind him. But Liam Smith is now number 6 at what middleweight? First red flag. Liam Smith is now number 6. Eubank Jr. goes into this fight at number 5, and he fights a natural junior middleweight. People don't realize Liam Smith is a natural junior middleweight, which is why when they talk about a rematch of this fight, Liam Smith is going to want it at a catch weight of 157 because he's not a middleweight. He's not a middleweight, and he's out here beating a top 5 middleweight. Derevinchenko, number 7. Murata, who lost to Golovkin last year, number 8. And I don't think he's fought since. Erislandy Lara, for the love of God, is number 9. This is what AIDS looks like. If you want AIDS, if you want to see what AIDS looks like as it comes back in the form of boxing rankings, this is it. This is it. This is trash. This is ridiculous. This is unacceptable. Fellas, people aren't talking about this enough. How do we get to this? How does the middleweight division, 15 years ago, just 15 years ago, we saw Pavlik versus Taylor in a classic. What was that? How many years ago was that? Sergio Martinez knocks out Paul Williams. Cotto moves up and beats Sergio Martinez. Before that, the division of Bernard Hopkins constantly constantly defending his title 20 plus times. Marvin Hagler, the guy behind me, their division, historic division, the first division in boxing. This is our roots, and it's come to this. This is disrespectful. How does it happen? How does that happen? It's about promoters protecting their assets, putting them in bubble wrap, putting them in shrink wrap, keeping them away from risk, no movement, sanctioning bodies not stripping guys, Jamal Charlo. And look, man, I have all empathy in the world for mental health, mental illness, all that. I have empathy. Everybody has people they have to check on. I'm no different. But 850 days you fought one time. I don't care what the reason is. You got to be stripped. You got to be stripped. We need movement in these divisions. Jamal Charlo should not have a belt. And the fact that he's fought once in the past 850 days and he's still ranked number 2 by big publications like BadLifeHook.com and RingTV.com tells us how putrid and disgusting this division has become. The fact, that's red flag number 1, red flag number 2, a junior Liam Smith, very pedestrian fighter. Number 6, red flag number 2. Red flag number 3, 41-year-old guy, still number 1 in the division, has not been picked off by a young lion yet. Huge red flag. The only guy in recent history who has unified in the division. He did it against Murata. And Murata didn't fight for some time before that, still had the belt, and hasn't fought since, I don't believe. Red flag number 4. Where are these fights being mandated? How is it that Eubank has a belt fall in his lap because everybody's scared to death of him, and you watch him fight in his last fight, you're like, this guy's pedestrian. Boo Boo Andre should have beat him. He should have fought him. He's scared of this guy. And nothing against Eubank. It could have been a one-off. But Boo Boo Andre doesn't want to fight that guy. And then he wants to whine, oh, I can't get the fights. I can't get the fights. I can't get him. I ducked Eubank twice. I ducked Zach Parker twice, but everybody's scared of me and I can't get the fights. No. So all the Boo Boo Andre channels out there, the few of them that are pushing the Boo Boo Andre to the death of him narrative, no, you're not getting away with it. You're going to be called out and you're not getting away with it. This is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Red flag number 5. Red flag number 5 is generally guys at 154, junior middleweight, have moved up to middleweight. Chasing glory, chasing legacy. This is the first division in boxing. This is a sexy division, the middleweight division. If I become middleweight champion, look at what it does for my legacy. Middleweight champion of the world. It almost rings the same as heavyweight champion of the world. The baddest man on the planet. Generally, the middleweight champion of the world has been a guy you can put on the pound for pound list. Dating back to its very beginning. Now look at it. Look at this disgustingness. Look at this dumpster juice just pouring off the side of the dumpster. This is AIDS. If AIDS was a boxing ranking, right here. This is what it looks like. This is disgusting, and anybody who has anything to do with this should be called out from the mountaintops. The promoters who have anything to do with this, the members of these fighters, the fighters themselves, all of them. The business of boxing, this is your doing right here. This is yours. And the boxing fans who think this is okay, it's your doing as well. But guys at 154, the Sergio Martinez's, Miguel Cotto's who go up and then become lineal champions by beating Sergio Martinez. Canelo moving up to 160. The guys at junior middleweight have wanted to go to middleweight to chase the glory. So red flag number 5 would be Sebastian Fundora staying at 154. Mel Charlo becomes undisputed, stays at 154. Maybe that's due to his brother. I don't know. But the top guys at 154 are staying put. The guys at 168 are not draining themselves to make 160 in order to chase middleweight glory. They're staying at super middleweight. And a lot of that has to do with Canelo derangement syndrome. These guys just want to chase the Canelo payday. And a lot of it has to do with guys are sticking around at 154 to try to pick off Errol Spence moving up. Hopefully they're the guy that gets the shot, right? I want to be the guy to get the shot at 154 at Errol Spence. But for the love of God, can somebody come and pick off the old lion at the top at 160 here? Can Jamal Charlo, for the love of God, fight? For the love of God, can somebody fight Janibek? He's Janibek, dude. Like, anybody who's been following this sport for a long time, who watched Janibek fight in his last fight, like, we're looking at it and we're like, how is this dude the boogeyman? Nothing against Janibek. It may have been a one-off. He may end up being a great fighter, but I watch him fight his last fight and I'm like, dude, this can't be what it's come to. You're ducking that guy? Jaime Munguia is talking about possibly fighting Shane Mosley Jr.? What? Excuse me? What is Jaime Munguia doing? At least he's staying active, but fight somebody. And how is Liam Smith a top 6 middleweight? This is disgusting. It's dumpster juice. Sick of the finger-pointing excuses, acting like Canelo was born with clout. Earned it. Benavidez, Jamal, Batu, etc. Ain't really trying. And here's the thing. And I'm going to get into it talking about these guys. And I'm going to bring up the welterweight division in a minute. You bring up Canelo. Canelo went out and got his clout. Canelo had a built-in fan base, right? Red-headed Mexican, looks like Richie Cunningham. Women love him. Men want to be him. Nice built-in Mexican fan base, but you don't keep that fan base if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You don't keep it. Ask Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. How many Mexican fans are showing up to his fights the past couple of years? How many? How many? If you stop behaving like the fighter that they expected you to be, you lose that fan base. That's that organic fan base we talk about. You gain that organic fan base, but as soon as you stop acting like the fighter that they fell in love with, only you, when you build that organic fan base, only you can detach yourself from that fan base. Nobody else can do it. These LDBC channels out here and whoever else, for the love of God, all these bad journalists in boxing, they can't separate you from your fan base. They can't. They can spread all the false propaganda they want. They can't separate you from your fan base. Only you can by not acting like the fighter that they fell in love with. And what did they fall in love with Canelo? Was it an O? No. Was it an O? How do we know that? He lost to Mayweather. The train kept rolling. The train kept rolling. They fell in love with him because knocks out Carlos Baldomir, entertaining fighter. But on top of that, he says, I can fight Matthew Hattons and fight for title. Look at what the WBC is bending over backwards for me. I can do that all day. I can fight Matthew Hattons at catch weights for real belts. Keep my belts as long as I want them. WBC will bend over backwards for me, but I want to fight Austin Trout. Oscar De La Hoya gets in his ear. No. Don't fight Austin Trout. Don't fight. No, you work for me. Go give me my fight. Make it in the Alamo Dome. I'm going to win the fight. Go give me the fight. He beats Austin Trout. Even if he loses to Austin Trout, the fan base is still going to show up because they know he didn't have to do that. And he still did it. But he wins the fight. I want to fight Floyd Mayweather next. No. Don't. Are you crazy? Don't fight Floyd Mayweather. He's aging. You're young. Just let him age out. Let him age out. Maybe 5 years we can visit it. No. What did I just say, Oscar? What did I just say, journalists? I don't need fanagers out here telling me you can't win the fight. No, I don't need that. Go give me the fight. I asked for Floyd Mayweather. Oscar, you work for me. Go give me the Floyd fight. He fights Floyd. He loses almost every round, in my opinion. Guess what? The train keeps rolling. How is that? The Mayweather fans are like, oh my God, he lost the fight. How do you still love this guy? How do you still? He's behaving like a fighter. He's behaving like one of these guys. You know how old Ray Leonard was when he fought Duran? 24. 24 years old. You know how old Thomas Hearns was when he fought Ray Leonard? 22. 22. Canelo was 22, 23 when he fought Floyd Mayweather. How old's Boots Ennis? 25. Stanionis, I think he's 28. Virgil, 25. These guys are 7 years into their career. Seven. And we're still hearing the excuses. No, it doesn't make sense right now because they're both undefeated and they're still young. Calix, they're still young. You shouldn't be asking this of young fighters. They're still young. Tank's still young. He's 28. I understand he's 10 years in, but he turned pro when he was 18, and you need to be empathetic. Benavidez, yeah, he turned pro young. I know he's 9 years into his career and doesn't have a big win, but you need to be empathetic here. About these guys. Did this guy go through this gauntlet right here undefeated? Nope. This guy right here, did he go through this gauntlet undefeated? Nope. This guy, did he go through this gauntlet undefeated? Nope. This guy, did he go through this gauntlet undefeated? Hell no. No. Guess what? They're on the poster. They're in the Hall of Fame. They made a boatload of money. They're real boxing stars and superheroes. And they all lost and draw to each other. But they fought the fights. When are we going to get back to that? And when are we going to get back to, as fans, asking for these fighters to fight each other and rewarding these fighters for fighting each other? And not battling these mythical battles for these fighters online. Dude, I refuse at this point. These dudes put up these mythical matches. Who would win between Tank and Devin if they fought? Who would win between Tszyu and Haney if they fought at 140? And I'm just saying, can I see the fights? Can I see the actual fight? I refuse to go on Twitter, YouTube, and debate who's winning fights between these fighters. Give me, for the love of God, give me the damn fights. You dudes are going to mythically fight fights for these fighters till you die. So who is going to be the kings? Who's the next four kings? Where are they? Tank, Haney, Ryan, and Lomachenko? That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Bud, Errol, Boots, Virgil. Yeah, that's good too. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. You want me to bring up the welterweight rankings? You want to know why that's a funny one? Should I bring up the welterweight rankings? So you want to see more aids? Let's screen share that so I can puke my guts out again. Screen share so you can see if AIDS was boxing rankings, this is what it would look like. Now, everybody would say, look at all those undefeated fighters. Look at all the talent in that division. Oh, my God. Look at all the talent. Look at all the potential in that division. It's potential. It's not realized. The reason it's potential is because it's not realized. A lot of women marry potential and it's never realized, and then they just marry a deadbeat. Errol Spence Jr. and Bud Crawford at the top. They've been at the top for 5 years and haven't fought each other. So they're going to be these guys? Nope. Leonard fought Duran. Leonard was 24. Duran was 28. Ray Leonard was 3 years into his career. Ray Leonard, in 4 years turning a pro. Within 4 years of turning pro, beat Benitez, fought Duran again, and fought Hearns. 4 years in. Ray Leonard fought Tommy Hearns. Ray Leonard was 5. Tommy Hearns was 22. Hagler fought Hearns. The War, one of the greatest fights ever. 9 minutes of hell, however long it lasted, 3 rounds. People saw Hagler as old there. He was like 64 fights in. He was only 30. Hearns was 26. Hearns fought Duran. Hearns was 25 years old. These guys were fighting their fights in their 20s when they belonged. This is another thing that's wrong with boxing fans. Boxing fans have been propagandized into thinking that fighters stay in their prime longer than they do. Nobody does this in other sports. Nobody will tell you Ron is still in his prime. Nobody would have told you Michael Jordan, 96 through 98, was still in his prime. You're in your prime in your 20s, generally speaking. There are a few exceptions. So you have a lot of boxing fans saying, let the fight marinate. Let's do it when they're in their 30s. You know, you can build the fight. They're still in their prime. They're not in their prime. And if you would have done it in the 20s, these fighters would have been stars by now. How has it not raised a red flag to a lot of journalists and fans out there that for the first time in boxing history, we don't have an American star? We don't. Don't mention Tank. Don't mention Errol. They are not superstars. They're not. They do good numbers. Livegate, I get all that, but they're not superstars. I showed Muhammad Ali on Johnny Carson's show doing a weigh-in with Ken Norton. That's a superstar. Canelo doing Bud Light commercials or whatever he's doing, Michelob Ultra, superstar. Anthony Joshua, same thing, superstar. We don't have an American superstar in boxing. We don't, and that shouldn't be the case. And don't bring up surface issues. Don't bring it up. Because fighters have battled that before in decades past and were still stars in America. Not anymore. Because we have foundational issues like this. What's the first thing you see when you see these rankings right here? What's the first thing? What would be the first? I'll ask the chat and I'll let it marinate for about 30 seconds. What's the first thing you notice here? That's the first red flag. It's the first red flag. When you see it, you shouldn't be able to unsee it, and it should be the first red flag. What is it? And Inoue is winning the poll. Let me pull that poll up for a minute. Let me mute this real quick. The poll is at 79% Inoue, and I agree. Bivol 16%, Crawford 5%. And I think that has a lot to do with Crawford being third, has a lot to do with people just not trusting boxing's power brokers to get that fight done. Here it is. Most or all are undefeated and have not fought each other. That's the red flag. That's the red flag. Anytime you see 6 undefeated fighters in the top 10 ranking, red flag. Red flag. Red flag, red flag. This is another thing. Like, how in the hell is Keith number 5? And it's not just badlefthook.com. Ring has him up there as well. All the big publications still has Keith top 6, top 7. How? What's he doing? But Errol, Bud, Boots, Virgil, Emilio Estevez, Stanionis, and Cody Crawley all undefeated. 6 undefeated fighters in the top 10. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. And you'll have their promoters, you'll have the managers out there. Look at all the undefeated fighters. What a great division. This is the greatest division in boxing. Look at the greatest division in boxing. Look at all the talent. How do we know how talented it is if they're not fighting each other? How? How do we know who the best is? How can you tell who the best is if they're not fighting each other? How? How do we know who's better between Boots and Virgil if they're not fighting? How do we know who's better out of Bud and Errol? We don't even know who the best fighter in the division is. We've had 2 guys at the top 2 for 5 years, and we don't know who's better yet. They programmed you. They did it with Manny and Floyd. What did we wait? 6-7 years for that fight? 6-7 years we waited for that fight? Just think about that. For 6-7 years, dudes were on the YTBC, boxing Twitter, battling between each other, who would win between Floyd and Manny, stylistically. And on top of that, whose fault it was that the fight wasn't happening. Leonard and Duran, when they fought, do you know that was a co-promotion between Bob Arum and Don King? It's co-promotion. These guys fought multiple fights co-promoted. We all like money, right? Don liked money. Bob liked money. They made the big fights. Who the hell doesn't like money? We all like money, right? So they realize, hey, if we put on the biggest fights, we'll make money, right? These new age promoters are not co-promoting fights. Don and Bob realize, hey, we can also limit the risk if you take on Leonard's side of it, I take on Duran's side of it. We can limit the risk. You handle this side's guarantee, I'll handle this side's guarantee. We make the fight. One fighter loses, we move on. They're still stars. Who cares about the O? They're still stars. But these guys aren't. Do you think 40 years from now, you'll be seeing a poster like this with Tank, Lomachenko, Haney, and Ryan Garcia? and they had you thinking that these guys were the new four kings. Do you think there'll be a poster 40 years from now that people will be hanging on their walls, doing podcasts on God knows what platform is out there, and you'll have Bud, Errol, Boots, and Virgil? This is how far we've fallen. They're not fighting the fights, guys, so they can't get the glory. They can't. And you can try to brainwash people into thinking that they can get the glory without going through the fire, but they can't, because I see these dudes all over the place now. And I've been on panels with these guys. I battled these guys on Twitter, and they're like shooting at zombies, right? And try to explain to them, no, you got to go through the fire. You can't just do currency over legacy. And then you talk to these managers, and they're like, I actually don't like that fight for that guy right here. I don't like Jose Ramirez fighting Regis in this spot because Jose Ramirez had a tough loss 2 years ago. How many years do you need this guy to take a break? How many? And you can put anybody in that spot, anybody in Jose Ramirez's spot. Anybody loses a fight, oh, it's a tough loss. We need to do a tune-up and then another tune-up and another tune-up and another tune-up. And maybe 5 years down the line, he'll be ready for the fight. He'll be ready for a big fight again 5 years from now. Meanwhile, Duran. The dude fought Duran twice. This dude within a 2-year period, Ray Leonard fought Benitez, Duran, not the band, the fighter, and Tommy Hearns within a 2-year period. I went over it like Oscar fought 5 title fights in 97 as Ring Magazine pound for pound king. 98 or 99, he fights Tito Trinidad, his big rival, and one of the biggest fights that was made up until that point. Loses the fight. 5 months later, fights Coley, and then 3 months after that, 2 to 3 months after that, fights Shane Mosley. So within 12 months of each other, within 9 months of each other, dude fights Tito Trinidad and Shane Mosley. Were there fans around back then saying, I don't really like that fight for Oscar right now. I don't really like it. I don't like Oscar's just going too hard right now. We need to back it up. He needs to take a break, take some tune-ups. Were fans behaving that way 25 years ago? Were fans behaving that way 15 years ago? Jermaine Taylor, he lost brutal knockout to Kelly Pavlik. I don't think he should do the rematch. Were their managers running rampant back then like they are now? This fighter lost a tough fight 2 years ago, so he shouldn't take a tough fight. Let's bring out this smallest violin ever and let's play it for him. These guys were fighting the fights, and that's why they were stars. It's that simple. They're trying to overcomplicate it. It's that simple. Guys were fighting the fights. They had promoters, marketing teams that were correctly marketing them. They were out promoting themselves, and they were fighting the fights. They were busy building organic fan bases, and they kept them in the door because they were behaving like fighters throughout their careers. They built up their brand, and that's how they got on posters to where 30, 40 years old later, they're on posters on people's walls. And that's why we go back to Canelo. Why is Canelo a star? He's behaving like one of those fighters. 60-something fights. He's almost at 70 fights. This dude's about to go to the UK. And they're going to say, oh, John Ryder, please. He's fighting John Ryder. He's a Euro bum. He's a top 10 fighter in the weight class. It's a mandatory arts of defense. And I'm not saying John Ryder's the best option at this point, but what I'm saying is if he's going to fight Bivol in September, which is what he said he was going to do, and he wants to go to the UK in May, how many fighters are A-sides right now? How many A-side fighters are going to foreign territory to fight their fights against B-side fighters? How many? Put it in the chat. Highly intelligent chat. Put it in the chat. How many A-side fighters are going to foreign land to fight B-side opponents? How many? How many? Canelo understands. My predecessors, the guys who paved the way for me in this boxing world, they went on the road, fights in Africa. They fought fights in Japan. They fought fights in the desert in Saudi Arabia. They fought fights in other territories in order to build their global brand. Canelo understands this. He gets it. And by the way, the people criticizing Canelo for one single fight, you can't do it when you're comparing them to other fighters because these guys are simply fighting once per year. Canelo's been one of the only fighters who've been fighting 3 times per year, 2 times per year. Simply been outpacing the other guys. AJ, Tyson Fury, in a way. Those are some names. So those are some names right there. But look at that. Look at those names you put up. Stars too. These guys understand it, and these other fighters don't get it. How many of these other fighters are going to say, I'm too big to go over there. Too big to go fight that fight over there. Too big. Too big. Give me my guarantee. 1 fight per year. Let it fall in my lap. And then I'll sit over here and complain about why I'm not a superstar like these guys. Canelo. AJ. Putting in the work early. In a way, putting in the work, going from Japan to America. Tyson Fury going to America to fight Deontay Wilder. Ricky Hatton going to America to fight multiple fights, including Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. These guys get it. They understand their roots. They understand that legacy matters. They understand that belts matter. They understand all of this stuff. They understand that you can't disconnect yourself from the traditional way of building up a fighter and still become a star. You can't do it. Watch how long Jake Paul stays a fan in this sport. It's not going to last long. His pay-per-view numbers have been dismal from what I heard. Terrible. KSI, these guys aren't going to, these other guys are seeing, these guys are becoming stars. Just getting out there and boxing. One, they're staying active. 2, they built up an organic fan base before they were boxers, but they're not going to continue to be boxing stars. They're not, because they didn't build it up traditionally in this sport. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It probably fools a lot of casuals. A lot of stuff fools a lot of casuals, but what worries me is a lot more. A bigger percentage of stuff is fooling hardcore boxing fans now. These instigators love bringing up Yildirim and Makabu, and Canelo fought Bivol instead. They are still complaining. They're going to complain about everything. It's Canelo derangement syndrome. Remember, reluctant Roy Jones Jr. wouldn't go to Europe for big fights, firemen, policemen, teachers instead. And then Roy ended up going to Australia, et cetera, Russia later on in his career, right? When not so many people wanted to see him fight here. And it hurts me to say that because I'm a Roy Jones fan, but it is what it is. Usyk, Pac-Man, the Klitschko brothers. Yeah, Klitschko brothers did it. Usyk does it. I wouldn't put Usyk as big of a star as those other guys we mentioned, but Pacquiao is Pacquiao, right? He did it as well. But there's a common theme here is you have fighters who are willing to take on risk, right? The fights that they fight, the risk they take on. Pacquiao fights in 11 different weight classes out of the 17. He fights in 65% of the boxing's weight classes. He goes on the road, right? And he assumes that risk. So even if he were to lose, even if he loses to Floyd Mayweather, he assumed all that risk. So the legacy is already there. And his fans are not going to leave him after those losses. The fans are not going to leave him after a Tim Bradley controversial loss. They're not going to leave him. As bad as that Mayweather fight was, they're not going to leave Pacquiao after that. He's not going to be detached from his base. They're not going to leave him after he's knocked out by Marquez in the fourth fight because he fought the fourth fight. He built that organic fan base and he kept it. He kept those people in the building by behaving like Manny Pacquiao throughout his career. You're just not going to lose that fan base if you do that. But he took on a ton of risk. He assumed a ton of risk. He went for legacy first, and he got currency and legacy, more of it. Pacquiao could have stayed in the lower weight classes. He could have stayed 130 South. Didn't have to go to 135 to fight David Diaz. He did. Ricky Hatton, 140. When Manny Pacquiao was at 130, and you would have told people at that time that he was going to knock out a 140-pound Ricky Hatton, who was undefeated at the time when Manny Pacquiao was at 130 in the second round, people would have called you crazy. They would have called you crazy. I had the same people doing this when it came to Canelo. Canelo was at middleweight, and they're saying if he ever goes up to super middleweight and fights Billy Joe Saunders, a guy who can move and is naturally bigger, he's going to lose that fight. And then it gets close to that fight, and people start changing their tune, right? And then after people start changing their tune, oh, it's a Euro bum. It's just a Euro bum. It's a Euro bum. But these fighters assume risk. Intelligent fight fans respect these fighters for it. They grow their organic fan base, and they get on posters. Those fighters get on posters. It's like when we were in Vegas talking to Cotto, and Steve Kim's asking Cotto, why would you fight Clottey? You didn't have to fight Clottey. Nobody wanted to fight Clottey. Cotto said he's there. He had to fight him. Just fought him. And that's why you had people a decade plus after Cotto had his big fight still lining up at the bar to take pictures of him and tell him how much they appreciated his career, even though they didn't like him at the time. Canelo fans, Mexican fans, your Puerto Rican fighter, didn't really like that, but I respect the hell out of what you did with your career. You got people lining up who hated him when he was fighting, still showing homage and respect. How many fight? You think people, as of right now, 10, 15 years down the line, are going to be doing that to Tank? Or whoever, Benavidez, put anybody in there. But the good news is this. There are divisions out there behaving where fighters are behaving like fighters. 115, 140, 154. Tszyu, Jermell Charlo pulls out of the fight due to the hand injury and says, I got to lay up for a while. It's a broken hand. Can't fight. And we should all be empathetic to that. It's a real injury. But Tszyu says, next in line. Bring it up. I don't want to wait around. I want to fight. Next in line. Tony Harrison on short notice. Give me the fight. 154, the fighters behave like fighters. It's what we say about 140. These fighters at lightweight who are moving up to 140 and behaving like they were behaving at lightweight, these 140 pounders are looking at them like, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you coming into my house and behaving the way you behaved in your old house? No, don't come over here with that. Don't come up to 140. Don't come up to junior welterweight and behave like you were behaving at lightweight. You're not going to come up to super lightweight and behave like you did at lightweight. No. I don't want that trash behavior. You're not going to come up here, Teofimo Lopez, and say, well, the belt, the belt's important, but I don't want to fight Regis Prograis. It doesn't make business sense, 35%. How about you make an offer? How about you have a promoter, right? How about your promoter makes his promoter an offer? You have a manager. How about your manager talks to his manager? And you can get rid of the 35%. You can negotiate in good faith before the purse split. It doesn't have to be 65 to 35. We know your promoter can work with his promoter. We know other promoters have worked with Probellum. For the love of God, Regis Prograis' last fight was top-ranked Probellum. It doesn't have to get there. You can negotiate in good faith where you can get the fights made, but you're behaving like you behaved at lightweight and came up to 140, behaving like that. I got to give Teofimo credit for the Lomachenko win. Taking that fight, forcing that fight, all that stuff. But since then, fighters are moving up from 135 to a real division at 140. And it's something different. And these fighters are something different. They don't have the big brand names that these fighters at 135 have, but they haven't been pampered either because of that. 147, I showed you that dumpster juice division. I showed you the dumpster juice division at 160. In between those two historic sexy divisions, you have 154 slotted in between. And fighters there are behaving like fighters. We're getting some of the best fights. We're getting fighters assuming risk. We just got Mel Charlo versus Castaño twice, 2 great fights. We got Undisputed. We had a tumultuous run for Jamal in between that, where he had a few blemishes up until his point to get Undisputed. He had to fight a few rematches, but he got there. He got to the mountaintop. He had resistance getting to the mountaintop because maybe his ceiling's a little lower, but he still busted through that ceiling and got there. And they made the fights in that division. So now we know how to properly value Jermell Charlo as a fighter, because he went through the fire to get to the mountaintop. Danny Garcia moves to 154 and he brings welterweight energy with him, right? Yeah, I want to fight this guy who's a welterweight at 154. And guess what? I want to fight a middleweight for a Reggie belt at 155 in my next fight. That's that welterweight energy. Hopefully we get Danny Garcia behaving like the type of guy he should be behaving as right now. A guy who has a name, but he's past it. And he should realize that he's a glorified gatekeeper at this point, and he can fight a Sebastian Fundora. Let's see if Sebastian Fundora, Danny Garcia clout throughout his career. Let's see if Fundora can clout chase off of that. You can pay Danny Garcia well for that fight. You can see if Sebastian Fundora, the B-side in that fight, but the young lion coming up, we can properly value where Sebastian Fundora is at in his career by trying to clout chase off of a guy with clout. But let's see if these welterweights moving up to 154 ruin the division by moving up, by bringing 147 energy up to the division. Let's see if Errol Spence doesn't fight the fights at 154. Let's see if Errol Spence continues to fight 147 pounders at 154. Let's see if Danny Garcia continues to do the same. Or will these fighters get infected by the 154 energy? Will the fighters moving up from 135 get infected by the 140 energy? 140, 154, 115. And Fundora not being properly promoted. Fundora, I know, wants more fight dates, and he's not being given them. So I think you're right. I think you're right in this comment. All the young lions are going to end up there, but you got to fight the fights if you're going to stick around. They're not going to respect Tszyu's power and presence at 140. It's different up there. It is different up there. It is different up there. And I hope he understands that. But Tszyu, he's carrying good energy right now, fighting the best fight available to him, Tony Harrison. And it's a toss-up fight according to the odds. But we need more toss-up fights in boxing. We need 4 fights to where I don't know if he's going to win that fight. I don't know if that guy can win that fight. We need more fights like that instead of the WWE stuff where we know fighter A is going to beat fighter B. We know that guy's going to win that fight. We know 9 times out of 10 already the result. Decision, knockout. We need more fights like Tszyu, Harrison, crafty vet, tough vet, young lion. Prepare Tszyu. Let's see if Tszyu is more last name than real fighter. Or let's say if he's real. And then if he beats Harrison, especially if he beats Harrison in an entertaining fashion, it further builds up Mel Charlo versus Tszyu. And Tszyu is willing to come to America for that fight. Tony Harrison is willing to go where the Tszyu fight belongs, in Australia. More American fighters going overseas to Australia. Devin Haney, Harrison, Stephen Fulton Jr., if the rumors are true, going to Japan. Fighters going to Saudi Arabia, if that's what they have to do to secure the bag and secure a fight. Do it. Go where the fights belong. Make the fights, whatever makes the fights quicker, make them. Enough with the marination, enough with the over marination. Let's get to this quicker. Let's see who is the best. Let's see who's better. Let's see who's entertaining. Let's build some stars. Let's do it. Stop getting in the way of what real fans want. We just want the fights. We just want the fight. So I love Tszyu versus Harrison. I think it's a real toss-up fight. I love that it's in Australia. It's going to be a great environment. And if he wins that fight, it builds up Mel Charlo versus Tszyu even bigger, right? I like Canelo going to the UK, further building his brand. Watch, dude, I'm telling you, it's going to be like the Beatles on the road. Watch that atmosphere when Canelo fights in the UK, if that fight does happen in the UK. Watch it. It's going to be one of the first fighters you see go over there and not get hysterically booed. Just watch. And it's going to be a Canelo's back fight if he performs well, and it further builds up the rematch with Dimitri Bivol here in the States, where Canelo Alvarez will be a 3-1, possibly 4-1 underdog against Dimitri Bivol, no matter if that fight happens at 168 or 175. But more fighters behaving like this. Less stuff like the current middleweight rankings, welterweight rankings, waiting around. Let's get things moving in 2023. Let's get things moving. I favor Inoue to beat Fulton, but if Fulton wins, it's good for boxing in the sense that more American fighters will go overseas to chase greatness in their respective division. And you got Josh Franco went over there in December. Fulton possibly going over there. Yeah, more fighters realizing that, lower weight class fighters realizing that I can go over there and make a bag. Unless 73% say Inoue, 19% say Bivol, 8% say Crawford. And the fact that Crawford is one fight away and those other fighters are multiple fights away tells you how little faith people have in these boxing power brokers making the fights that need to be made, right? Because Errol and Bud is right there, and it's been right there for a long time. And now it's for undisputed, and it's still right there, and it's still not happening. Disgusting. And it perfectly sums up, encapsulates why we are where we are. HCP will be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow, same time, Hispanics Causing Panic, me and D-Style will be here on this channel. Tomorrow, we will be going forward Monday and Thursdays, 2 days a week. So we'll be here tomorrow discussing a lot of things, previewing the Better BF fight with Yard. And that's a big discussion as well that we'll have betting odds as well. So HCP will be back here tomorrow around the same time. Y'all make sure to lock in, tune in, and see y'all tomorrow. God bless. Peace.